I was listening to Will and CA Saturday morning, as you always should. Our weekend lineup is top notch. And they were talking about Zeke expectations for 2022. But then CA kind of said something and they diverged on this for just a second about like, well, you know, Zeke's a team guy. And then some people push back and they're like, what about the contract thing and everything? And so it got into that conversation. And I just kind of wanted to know if my perception is unfair that I do not view Ezekiel Elliott as a team guy.
Just because of the contract thing?
I think that's part of it. And then sometimes I get caught up with, and I don't know how to go about this with the injury thing. Because like last year, everybody was like, Zeke's the guy you want on the team because he toughed it out through the injury. I respect the toughness it took to continue to go out there with a PCL injury and play running back. That sounds like horribly difficult. But at the same time, I wonder is that looking out for what's best on the team when if you would have taken a step back, maybe Tony Pollard could have got a shine on, or did Zeke just think he was better? Or is that what the team asked of him? Or is he trying to protect his spot? Like I have all of those questions because I wasn't in the room and I have no idea. But yeah, I look back at 2019 when he was still under contract for 2 more years and he's like, well, I'm not showing up. And then all the reports we got once he did show up were that he was out of shape. And if you look at it since then, that contract, since he would have been out of contract, I guess it's only 1 year. We're only 1 year into the new deal after you take out like what would have been his 5th year option. And it's been an albatross on this team. Like a lot of times when you lose players, it's at least in part to the Zeke contract. Now that also has to do with the ineptitude of our front office and knowing how to sign contracts. I certainly agree with that. But yeah, I guess I do not view him as a team player.
I wonder if like a lot of last year, this is just speculation, but this is kind of what I was going with a lot of the season. Hey, Zeke, we need you to justify this contract that we screwed up on pretty badly. Like you have to show up and show out, and you have to be that guy this year. And he came in very physically prepared for that.
Yeah.
And then was a really good running back. How many games? I want to go look at Ezekiel Elliott's numbers early in the season because I keep saying this.
Okay. I got him pulled up.
All right, the first 6 games. Give me the first 6 games.
You know what? And it's interesting. I think some of these numbers are going to blow your mind. First 6 games, 33 yards, 71 yards, 95 yards, 143, 110, 69, and 50.
Whoa.
Nice.
So, like, I mean, obviously, he had that run in the Philly, Carolina, New York Giants one that he was just kicking ass and taking names.
He just stays healthy.
Sure.
He's going to do that for 17
and he had
games.
A touchdown.
Stop it.
He had a touchdown in all but 2 of those games. He had 5 touchdowns in that stretch, I think.
Correct.
Okay. So, like, he came in and did the things that were asked of him, and I think that Tampa game got out of hand, first game out of hand so much in the passing game that they were just like, running game doesn't exist anymore tonight. So 33 yards, we were fine. We were close in that game and whatnot. That being said, all the things being said, he came in prepared and was there. And I think there was still this leaning on, hey, look, if you can get out there, you got to get out there. And I think that was from the top. I even think that the idea of toughness is coming from coaching too, of, hey, man, you got to be out there doing these things. Even though we all knew, we all were watching the same player that wasn't effective enough while he was injured. And they wouldn't even admit it. The Cowboys wouldn't admit it. They wouldn't say, hey, there's something wrong with him. They kept saying, no, everything's fine. And did you not see the guy we saw? And Mike and I were like, we saw a guy that was running down the sideline in the Saints game that looked like he was about to fall over. Like, we did not see a good player out there. I think that he thought he had to be the teammate. I think that is something that, and I think it's very difficult for a lot of players to say, I'm not the best option for my team right now, when everybody in the room is saying that you're the guy. How many of his teammates do you think went and told him, Zeke, don't play right now. You need to rest? I don't think any of them. I think all of them were probably saying in the locker room, they're like, we got to have you, buddy. We got to go have your game today. And they were trying to figure out how to hide him a little bit.
And I think this is interesting, and there's definitely fair parts in this text from the 214. We got to stop holding players accountable for their contracts. I'm not huge on Zeke, but he's 100% a team guy. Why would he say no to money? And that is where I think the narrative kind of gets muddied a little bit. He was under contract for 2 more years. And he's like, well, I'm not showing up until you give me an extension. I agree. Who's going to say no to money? Like, if they were like, hey, we're going to give you 5 for 90. Well, you're damn right. I agree that you should have taken that deal. And I think the Cowboys negotiate poorly. We've talked about that time and again. Dak Prescott says, I want, what was it, like $32 million. And they're like, no dice. They start off the season 1-3, and he gets hurt. And they're like, now we'll give you $40 million. The Cowboys are bad at negotiating. They are bad at negotiating. But Zeke also shook them down. And he was like, I know, the Cowboys could have said, then your career is over. You've got 2 years under contract. We can franchise you. We can sit you for 4 years. Now, the implications of that would probably be tough for them. But I thought Zeke shook them down. So it's not his fault he said yes to the money, but it's his fault that he kind of held them over a barrel. And that's part of the reason I still think that maybe he wasn't a team guy. And I wondered where the people felt on that.
So every player that's ever held out for a contract is not a team guy.
In that moment, absolutely.
What about all the other stuff they do, though, man?
What do you mean?
Like being a good teammate, like being in the room and helping out the younger players and showing them things that you don't ever see.
Sure.
But, and then being that guy that's willing to say, you know what, I'm going to sacrifice this today so that the team can get a win.
Yeah.
Those are things that don't get seen or discussed.
Zeke the poster child for that? He didn't sacrifice.
Have you ever heard Jerry Jones hop on our show, Kevin, and say Zeke is the guy that will run through the locker room naked, patting his butt, so everybody gets all excited about it?
Right. And if we're reevaluating that we now if we now take everything Jerry Jones says as gospel, I just want that as the accepted fact going forward, because I feel like most people do not abide by that. And here's the thing that
I will say, I've never heard a teammate say that he's not a good teammate.
Sure.
So I've never heard that. I have heard multiple teammates say that he is a good teammate.
Right.
So I don't know exactly.
Are they people who are still on the team? Because like, how often do you hear? How often do you hear people who are currently all together on the teams like, he's a crap teammate? As you shouldn't. Like, I think that's a terrible idea to step out and be like, this guy that's on the team with me right now is a bad teammate.
We talk to Randy Gregory and say, hey, what do you think about Ezekiel Elliott? And do you think he'll just destroy him, or you think he's going to love the guy?
I would love to hear what he has to say about it. Yeah, absolutely. And from the 214,
I will say this. I bet behind closed doors, who was the jacknuts that played cornerback? Orlando Scandrick. Mm-hmm. I bet there were plenty of people behind closed doors off the record who said, can't stand that SOB, but he's on our team. I don't think anybody would say that about Zeke. I do think the players genuinely. Yeah. Jeez, all right.
You did a great job, Mike.
Yeah, it was in my head. It worked in my head. Love that guy and do think of him as a good teammate. I'm not saying he's a good football player, but I think that they don't think of him like Orlando Scandrick, like piece of dump, but I have to play with him.
And I think the other thing too is he does have that contract. He was a leading rusher. He gained a lot of credibility very early in his career, right? And even like to the point where everybody was defending him during the other situation. But he gained all that quickly and was thrust into this leadership role, or accepted the leadership role with the contract. And so I think that when you walk into the Cowboys locker room, a lot of times you look around and you go, okay, Dak, Zeke, now Micah, DeMarcus. Like those are probably the first 4 people, and Zach Martin. First 5 people you think of as leadership guys when you walk into that locker room because of their roles specifically on this team.